She turned my pool into a party zone without asking. So I flipped the switch and turned her speech into a tidal wave of chaos. HOA Karen decorated my pool for a party, so I turned on the wave machine. Part 1. The plan behind the splash. I didn't scream when I saw it, didn't throw a fit, didn't call the cops. No. I smiled, because this wasn't going to be some loud drama on the lawn. This was going to be a lesson, a legendary one. Karen had turned my private pool into a glitter-drenched fantasy zone. Streamers, balloons, folding chairs. It looked like Pinterest threw up. But here's the thing she didn't know. My pool wasn't just for relaxing. I had designed it, engineered it, with one secret feature. A full-force, wave-generating machine. Not spa jets, not gentle ripples. I'm talking about waves strong enough to knock over adults and flip pool floaties like pancakes. I almost never used it. Too chaotic, too powerful, too tempting. But today? Today, it had a purpose. Karen thought I was the quiet neighbor with a nice backyard. She didn't know I was the architect of her downfall. Part 2. Decorations meet physics. Her decorations? Ridiculous. Balloons tied to flimsy chairs. Speakers balanced on bricks by the pool's edge. Streamers taped to sun-warmed metal. The whole setup looked pretty. But it was one breeze away from disaster. And I wasn't even mad anymore, because now I didn't need to sabotage anything. I just needed to let gravity and water do the dirty work. While Karen handed out cupcakes and rehearsed her speech like she was queen of HOA land, I slipped into the utility shed, past the lawn tools, past the mower, right to the pool's secret control panel. My fingers hovered over the touchscreen. I could have gone full power, but no, that was too obvious. I needed just enough chaos, just enough wave force to ruin the party without drawing blood. I set the timer, right when Karen would start her toast. Of course she was giving a toast. She always did. She loved being the center of attention. Part 3. The guests who had no idea when I came back around, guests had started arriving. I recognized none of them. Not neighbors, not friends, just strangers. Karen had opened my yard to the public like it was a park. I heard her laugh. "Oh, this? It's the community's favorite pool. The owner's never around. I just handle things for him." I almost bit my tongue off. The audacity. She didn't just steal my pool. She claimed ownership. Out loud. In front of everyone. That was it. The revenge wasn't just personal now. It was justice. She strutted around in a custom pink robe embroidered with Mandy's glamour. Yeah, this was Mandy's birthday. The cake? A glitter-drenched, 3-tiered sugar mountain. Balloon arch? Printed with Mandy's face. Guests, filming, posing, sipping cider. And Karen, moving snack tables an inch to the left, scolding someone for wearing the wrong color flip-flops. She was in her element. Too bad the elements were about to turn on her. Part 4. Countdown to chaos. I stood in the shade, calm, collected, almost entertained, because while Karen posed for photos and prepped her speech like she was hosting the Met Gala, I already knew how this was going to end. I texted Mike, the friend who helped install the pool system. Wave mode goes live in 10. He replied with one word. Finally. 5 minutes to go. Karen gathered the crowd. Kids lined the pool's edge. Adults hovered with phones raised, ready for the big moment. She turned on the Bluetooth mic. The photographer counted down, and Karen, dripping with smugness, lifted her glass and declared, "We are gathered here today to celebrate joy, community." She never finished the sentence, because right then, the timer hit 0, a silent hum, a deep vibration under the concrete, and then boom! The first wave crashed. Water sloshed up and over the pool ledge, splashing decorations, soaking snacks. A tray of cupcakes flew like pink missiles. The second wave, stronger. It lifted an inflatable unicorn straight into the air and sent it spiraling into the balloon arch. The third wave took down the cake table. Edible glitter everywhere. Karen, still standing, still holding that microphone, still glowing with self-importance. Completely unaware she was about to become part of pool party history. She smiled. She raised her glass higher. And right then, whoosh! The next surge hit. Full force. The giant flamingo float went airborne, launched like it was shot from a cannon. It slammed into the DJ booth. The Bluetooth speaker short-circuited, and just like that, the music died. Screams, gasps, laughter, total chaos. Karen's speech, gone with the waves. Part 5. The cake collapse. Karen stood frozen, microphone still in hand, mouth half open, and dripping with pool water. Her carefully styled curls, flattened, her sparkly pink robe, now clinging to her like soggy gift wrap. A second wave slammed the shallow end. A teenager filming the chaos got knocked straight into the water. His phone, gone. The speaker, gone. The last cupcake, floating. A photo backdrop collapsed into the pool like a folding fan in a hurricane. Balloons snapped off their strings, twisting into the air. Streamers tangled like seaweed. And Karen? Still clutching that mic like it was a lifeline. She tried to move, tried to keep control, but the concrete was slick, and karma, even slicker. She slipped, hard, straight into the cake table. Her arms flailed, reaching for anything. But all she caught was air, and a plastic tiara. Then, splat, face first, into a 3-tiered, glitter-drenched birthday cake. The frosting exploded like a confetti bomb. Pink, purple, and strawberries everywhere. The silence that followed, glorious. 2 whole seconds of stunned stillness. Until a tiny voice rang out, "Sakatediasa." Granny exploded the cake! Laughter. Uncontrollable, unfiltered, unforgiving laughter. Even the adults couldn't help it. One woman tried to hide her mouth. Another muttered, "Is this real life?" That's when I stepped out. Cool as a breeze, dry as desert air, lemonade in hand, and leaned casually on the fence post. Karen spotted me, frosting dripping from her face, eyes wide with rage. "You!" she shrieked, smearing pink icing from her eyes. "What did you do?" I took a sip, shrugged, and calmly replied, "Turned on my pool. You said it looked empty. Thought I'd give it some life." Part 6. The wave of realization. Karen's voice cracked like glass. "You ruined Mandy's birthday." I raised an eyebrow, still calm, still dry, and said, "No, Karen, you did. When you decided to throw a party on someone else's property without asking." She tried to stand, but her high heel caught on the soaked edge of a decorative rug. Whump! Down again. This time narrowly missing the now deflated balloon arch. Some guests looked away, clearly mortified. Others quietly gathered their things. The kids, though? They were having the time of their lives, splashing, laughing, riding the leftover ripples like it was a theme park. Karen scrambled up, wobbling like a wind-up toy running low on power, and screamed, "You'll regret this! I'm calling the HOA!" I pulled out my phone, smiled, and said, "Already texted them. Sent the footage, too." She froze. Completely froze. The crowd turned slowly toward her. A few neighbors, ones who had only shown up out of curiosity, backed away. The HOA president himself, who'd shown up late in a golf cart, looked like he'd seen a ghost. "Wait," he said slowly. "You don't live on HOA-managed land?" "Nope," I replied. That clause was removed from my deed years ago. I made sure of it. You could see it hit her, right in the pride. Her face turned crimson. Her eyes darted, looking for support. But no one moved. One guy whispered, "She told me it was a community pool." Another added, "She said you were fine with it." I took another sip of lemonade. Nope, I was camping. Just got back this morning. Imagine my surprise. Part 7. Karen versus reality check. Karen let out a frustrated growl, stamped her foot like a toddler on Christmas morning. "This was supposed to be special," she screamed. Then, perhaps forgetting how soaked she was, she stomped again and slipped. Thump! She landed face first, right onto the inflatable unicorn. It deflated beneath her with a sad, squeaky whine. That was it. The final blow. The visual was so absurd, so tragic, so perfectly ironic. The entire pool deck erupted into full-on laughter. Phones were filming. One person clapped. Someone else muttered, "This is the best HOA party ever." And it's not even an HOA party. I casually turned off the wave machine from my phone, walked back inside. Behind me, I heard someone whisper, "Honestly, that guy's a legend." The next morning, of course, the HOA came knocking. My phone buzzed with a message soaked in passive aggression. "Urgent. Immediate attendance required. Special meeting array, pool incident." Attached was a sad little PDF. Bad grammar. Too many exclamations. And an air of, "We're pretending to be in charge" energy. They wanted to discuss my detrimental impact on community harmony, even though it happened on my land, to my pool, without my permission. But I was ready. Oh, I was more than ready. I grabbed a clean shirt, a USB drive full of video footage, a folder of notarized documents, and walked into that HOA clubhouse, like a lawyer entering the courtroom on finale night. Part 8. The HOA Showdown. The room was buzzing when I walked in. Karen sat front and center, clutching a thick folder like it was a battle plan, flanked by her two favorite HOA minions, both of them looking like backup dancers at a courtroom drama. Her expression? Smug. Like she'd already won. The HOA president, still with a smear of frosting on his shirt from yesterday, cleared his throat. "We're here to address yesterday's incident." He tapped a piece of paper that suspiciously looked like Karen typed it herself. "Several residents expressed concerns that your pool actions created an unsafe environment." I cut in, politely, smiling. "Would those residents, by chance, include the woman who hosted an unauthorized birthday party on private property?" Karen's voice shot up. "You turned your pool into a water cannon. There were children." "You put people in danger." I calmly plugged in my USB. "Let's review the facts." The screen lit up. Video footage played. Karen climbing over my locked gate, directing people to decorate, telling guests, "He's never home. I take care of this place." Even pointing to my back door and saying, "Just use that bathroom. He doesn't mind." I paused the video, held up a notarized document. "This pool, this land, is private property, and I opted out of the HOA pool easement in 2021. Here's the legal proof." Karen stared at the paper like it was written in a forgotten language. The HOA president looked like he wanted to melt into his chair. He stammered, "But the decorations, the use of space, surely you knew?" "No. I got home from a camping trip and found 30 strangers in my yard." "That's not a party. That's trespassing." A neighbor in the back raised his hand. "I was there. Karen told everyone it was her space. She even charged us $5 for cake." Karen spun around. "It was a donation system." Another guest chimed in. "She told me I had to pay or I couldn't bring my kid." The room shifted. Suddenly, it wasn't just me versus Karen. It was Karen versus the truth. Part 9. Collapse of the Queen. The HOA board looked like they had just walked into a minefield barefoot. They were expecting a noise complaint, not a full-blown exposé backed by legal documents and witness testimony. I leaned forward. Not angry, just factual. I didn't call the police yet, because I thought this meeting might be enough to remind everyone where the line is. Karen's face flushed a deeper red than the flamingo float that slapped her yesterday. "You think you're so clever?" she snapped. "This was petty. All of it." I turned to the board. What's petty is assuming you can take over someone's property, just because you think it looks nice in your Instagram feed. If Karen had asked, none of this would have happened. But she didn't. She lied. She stole space. And now she wants you to clean up her mess. The president sighed, defeated. "We'll take a recess to review the documents." Translation. They needed to figure out how to save face. I walked out calmly. Didn't need a verdict. Because the real one was already echoing through the neighborhood. Laughter, whispers, smirks from people who used to cower around Karen. By the time I got home, someone had already turned her faceplant into a meme. Captioned, HOA Leadership in Action. I didn't even need to share it. The internet took care of the rest. The next morning, a new notice appeared on the HOA board. All events must receive written permission from property owner. Guess whose name was printed at the top? As a non-HOA exemption? Yep, mine. Part 10. The Final Splash. It should have ended there, but Karen just didn't know when to quit. A few days later, just as I was enjoying my coffee, my motion sensors pinged. I checked the footage, and there she was, Karen, dressed in yoga gear, sneaking around the side of the fence, carrying a rolled-up mat like she was smuggling stolen Zen. Behind her, a few of her loyal morning followers, ready for what I could only assume was one of her sunrise serenity sessions. She clearly thought I was asleep. She clearly forgot where she was. As she tiptoed near the pool, the motion-triggered wave cycle kicked in, not full blast, but just enough to soak her sneakers and knock over her tote bag. She shrieked, slipped, and flailed like a soggy flamingo. Her crew? Gone. They scattered like pigeons in a parking lot. And then, from the speakers, "Welcome!" Reminder, this is not a community pool. Poetry. Pure suburban poetry. Karen didn't come back after that. Not for yoga, not for parties, not even for a revenge walk-by. The HOA tried to save face with a community barbecue. This time, I got a personal invitation from the new board. Karen wasn't on it anymore. I showed up, smiled politely, ate one hot dog, then left before dessert. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't the biggest splash. It's walking away dry, while they're still soaked, humiliated, and furious. Part 11. Epilogue. A neighborhood changed forever. Karen's downfall didn't come with fireworks. It came with frosting, filtered water, and a well-timed wave machine. Her once iron grip on the neighborhood? Gone. People who used to nod nervously now smirked as they walked by her house. Kids reenacted her legendary fall into the cake like it was a neighborhood play. The HOA. They tried to pretend nothing happened, but the internet doesn't forget. The footage made its way to local Facebook groups, and then to Reddit. One post went viral, captioned, "When you throw a party on someone else's property, you'll know how to swim." It wasn't about petty revenge anymore. It was about boundaries, about reminding people that kindness is not weakness, and that silence doesn't mean permission. So I upgraded my property, hired a contractor, built a 10-foot fence, installed a biometric lock, and mounted a glowing red sign that read, "Private property, not for HOA use. Trespassers will be soaked." The sign, it became a local landmark. People took selfies in front of it. One kid even brought balloons to pose like it was Disneyland. The final touch? Cameras, motion sensors, and a soft recorded voice that said, "Smile. You're in the Karen-proof zone." Even my old grumpy neighbor started waving. Some of them even asked, "When's your next wave party?" And I did host one. No glitter, no cake towers, just a relaxed afternoon. Good food, good people, and one tiny sign above the grill that said, "Guests welcome, Karen's not." The story of the splash heard round the cul-de-sac lived on. People still talk about it. Some even ask me for tips on pool security. And every so often, someone brings up Karen with a chuckle or a knowing shake of the head. But she doesn't show her face anymore. The pool she once claimed as her stage had turned into the very thing that washed her spotlight away. Now, let me ask you, if someone threw a party in your private pool without permission, would you go full wave machine? Or take it even further,